Do you follow the masses, doing what you are told and feel as though you belong to a large community of people who all think the same way, do the same thing, and are really making an impact on the world? That is what's referred to as mass formation, and that's what we're talking about in today's video. So hello everyone, my name is Autumn Asphodel, and I'm a coach to help you live your best life. And we're talking about the psychological concept of mass formation and why so many people follow the crowd, follow what they're told, and what has led them to following this crowd. So enjoy the video. Are you someone who follows the crowd, or are you a free, independent thinker? Perhaps you believe you're an independent thinker, but are actually unable to think critically and just do as you're told because it's easier. Is it easier for you to belong to a collective that you think is the majority, or are you comfortable with isolating and dealing with the problems yourself? Is it easier to be blissfully ignorant than it is to actually question authority and the way you are living your life? These are difficult questions to answer since you may be unable to think about them as it brings up the feelings of loneliness and anxiety. If that is the case, you could have fallen for a psychological tactic called mass formation. Mass formation is a psychological tactic used by the news, politicians, world leaders, and the government to control the masses. Fear is always the mechanism used to initiate the hypnotic state to accept ideas. Mass formation starts by you having intense fear of whatever it is the government wants you to fear. This leads you to being in a suggestible state as you feel disconnected from others and like your life doesn't have meaning. This leads to you feeling anxious, frustrated, and angry. Consciously, you may not know why you feel this way. Thus, it's hard for you to release it. Deep down, these feelings stem from what the news and politicians told you to be afraid of, but you are not consciously connecting the dots. However, you continue to watch and listen to the news and government, the same people who implanted fear within you, and they now have a solution to the very problem they created. You adopt this way of thinking and feel like you belong since the masses also adopt it and even recite the exact words the news and government told them. You now have an outlet for your pent-up emotions and feel like you finally belong and have purpose. You comply with whatever you're told, no matter how bizarre and absurd the orders get. Since you want to feel like you belong, this is basic human nature after all, but the method that got you there is extremely dangerous and destructive. You may think you are with the masses, that the vast majority of people think the same way you do. However, this way of thinking is actually the minority way of thinking, amplified to look like it's the majority. It may even seem like a cult, like a small fringe minority that has a perceived powerful voice. But like any cult, it doesn't think for itself, but rather is given orders by others and complies without question. False information can be given to them day after day, even contradicting what was previously said, and the masses believe it without question, and no matter how absurd it gets. And it even progresses to the point of intense hatred towards those who do not comply, and physical and verbal abuse may ensue. The non-compliant person is seen as a threat because they represent the isolation, fear, and anxiety that the person who is under mass formation felt prior to the indoctrination. So mass formation is a psychological concept that is rooted in many different emotions that breaks down someone's ego, breaks down what they feel about the world, and makes them really question the world and the things that are going on, and it has them belong to a community. Often this is broken down by a lot of fear that is brought about by politicians, the news media, that really puts them in a suggestible state, really brings them down. And in this state, they end up feeling alone. They end up feeling like their life does not have any sort of purpose. And in order to regain some of this purpose, they have to find some sort of outlet, some sort of mass collective of people to all join in on and be a part of something, some sort of movement, some sort of ritual that they follow in order for them to take out this anxiety or even this anger and this loneliness that they feel. And when they do these rituals, when they participate in these events, whatever it is, they end up feeling as though they are kind of living their purpose, like they have found some sort of meaning to their life. It controls some of that insanity that has been caused by the fear that has been instilled within them from the politicians, from the government, from the news media. So if you really take a look at the world over the past few years, you will notice several things, several key things that this has been a major thing with a lot of people. If you are in this state, you have to be willing to open yourself up and diversify the media you consume. The tough decision is watching and listening to something that completely goes against the narrative you've been told and have been living for who knows how long. This will be a difficult task and you will have cognitive dissonance during this process. But remember the reason you are doing it. You must also recognize propaganda when you see it and don't blindly believe without questioning. You will see propaganda everywhere, as well as certain colors and banners on various websites promoted by various companies. Every time you see these things, little by little you begin to accept the idea, no matter how much you opposed it initially. Some examples in modern times of phrases that are rooted in the mass formation concept include "stay home, save lives," and "we're all in this together" during the COVID pandemic, "Black Lives Matter" during the George Floyd protests and riots, "Stand with Ukraine" during the war against Russia, "My body, my choice" during the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Find something that truly makes you want to wake up each day. What is your ideal goals and inspirations in life? Think about them instead of all the fear and anxiety that has been instilled within you, and go pursue your dream, no matter how difficult it is. There is no failure, only learning opportunities. And lastly, stop complying. If something feels off to you, question it and stop complying. You have every right to be your own authentic self without giving in. It's easier to give in than it is to fight for what you believe in. But imagine how good you'll feel for standing up for what you believe in instead of complying with what someone else wants you to do. The only person who has control over your life is you. No one else has control over you. So you have to be the one to make the tough decisions. Think critically and get to the root of your emotions and why you feel the way you do. Is it a genuine feeling of fear, anger, and frustration? Or has that been implanted in you by what you were watching and the people you were around? Cut out the noise of the others and listen to yourself. Let me know how this works for you. Have a great day. I first heard about this concept in depth by Matthias Desmet, primarily on the show The High Wire with Del Bigtree. Now, he has a book as well titled The Psychology of Totalitarianism. So I would recommend checking that book out if you want a lot more in depth on this topic. So if you are someone who follows the crowd, you have to really understand, what is it giving you? Why are you following this crowd? Have you questioned the reasons why? When you really think about the events over the past several years, think about how you've been manipulated by your government, by your politicians, by the news media to live in a state of fear, to not go around anyone else because they may pose a danger to you, or you pose a danger to them. That you are dangerous, that you are the evil person who's going to cause harm to someone else. This makes you feel sad, alone, frustrated, even angry. You're home alone. You feel as though you have no more purpose in life. You just feel very lost. So what do then? You're in a suggestible state. You listen to the news, you listen to the politicians as they cause the problem. And now they're offering you a solution, whatever that solution is. Many, many different ways of, solutions that they end up providing. No matter how absurd that they are, you follow them because that's a way for you to release this anxiety, this anger, these negative emotions that you have, and it makes you feel as though you are a part of something great. You see your fellow human beings walking around all looking the same exact way, and you feel like you belong to a community. And then you see a few people who are not following the rules, and you become angry. You become frustrated. that is your source of, that's the embodiment of your anxiety, your fear, your anger, right in that person who is non-compliant. I'm sure a lot of this sounds familiar, and if you are in this state and you are believing and doing exactly what the government tells you to do, then you have to be able to get yourself out of this mass formation. You have to be able to break free from that mindset, because this is your mind right now. You're not seeing what is beyond the blinders. You're just seeing what is ahead of you and the person who's ahead of you, which is your government, your politicians, your news media, all telling you how to live. Come towards me. We have the solution. We have the answers. Don't listen to all those other crazy people out there. So you have to put the brakes on hold there. Start to question everything that you're told, and start to think outside the box. Find some more meaning to your life than going along with these rituals that, when you really think about it, when you really drill down deep, they make no sense. No matter how absurd it is, when you're in mass formation, you're just going to do it regardless. You're not even going to think about it. But when you're out of it, you're going to say, this is absolutely absurd. This makes no sense. So really start to think about your actions and what is going on. Be sure to check out the amazing merchandise over at Asphodel's shop for some inspiring designs. I'm sure you'll find some amazing things. Also become a member of $5 up and above to get early access to new content weeks and months before it is publicly available to anyone else. I want to thank you all so very much for tuning into this video. I really want to hear your thoughts on this topic. What do you think? Are you part of mass formation? Do you know someone who is? How can you snap yourself out of it? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. So thank you so very much for tuning in. Have a great one. Bye-bye.